Good afternoon to everyone and welcome along to today's webinar. The focus of today's webinar is ArcGIS Online and I'm going to go through some tips and tricks that I use on a daily basis when I use ArcGIS Online. My name is Michael Kelly. I'm a technical sales engineer at Esri Ireland and I'm delighted to be joined today by Tim Williams, who is the Commercial Director of What 3 Words. You may have recently noticed that Esri and What 3 Words have partnered together, and What 3 Words is now available as a locator in ArcGIS Online and in the platform. So the way we're going to run today is I'm going to pass you over to Tim now in a couple of minutes, and he's going to continue on with the start of the webinar. He's going to go through What 3 Words, what to do, and how it can be used by our customers. And then I'm going to continue on. He's going to spend about 15 minutes talking about What 3 Words, and then I'm going to continue on and go through some of the stuff that I use in ArcGIS Online and that I find really useful, and hopefully these will help you. So without further ado, I'll pass you on to Tim, who will continue on with his What 3 Words presentation.
Thanks, Mikey. Can you hear me? Hopefully you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, Mikey, here we go. I'm just going to put my presentation in full screen mode. So good afternoon, everybody. As Mikey mentioned, my name is Tim Williams. I'm with What 3 Words, and I'm going to give you a quick 15-minute run through on What 3 Words. The title of my talk is Everyone, Everywhere, and Everything Now Has a 3 Words Address. So I hope you can see my screen. So I'm going to start with a fairly contentious statement and state that the world is poorly addressed. And for us in the UK, that's maybe quite a surprising statement. We've got a pretty good address system in the UK. In Ireland, I know that there are some challenges, but I think on the whole, there's some reasonable addressing, certainly in the big cities in Ireland. But actually, that's not the case the world over. And in fact, the world in general is poorly addressed. And a statistic that we got from Pitney Bowes tells us that actually 75% of the countries of the world have inadequate, poor, or no addressing systems. And that may be quite surprising. And in fact, some surprising places have very poor addressing systems. The picture we're looking at here is Dubai in the Middle East. And that fantastic looking tower building is the Burj Khalifa, which is currently the tallest building in the world. But Dubai has a very poor addressing system. It's very hard to find places in Dubai. I, in fact, have a brother-in-law who lives in Abu Dhabi, just 50 miles down the coast from Dubai. And I asked him, how do you get stuff delivered, Peter? And he said to me, we don't. They only get stuff delivered to a PO box. They have to go and collect it. And this is mainly due to poor addressing. So how can we get over poor addressing? How can we refer to locations when an area is poorly addressed? Well, we could use lat long, and in the GIS world, that probably would be the obvious thing to do. But the challenge with lat long is for regular people, non-technical people and non-geographers, it's just too difficult. Long strings of numbers, is it lat long or long lat? What are these degrees, minutes and seconds things? It's just too hard for people to associate with. And this is the problem we were thinking about at What 3 Words. And we thought about this problem, we thought, well, this problem is actually all about people trying to communicate locations with other people. So it's a people-to-people communication. And we thought, well, how do people like to communicate? Well, they like to communicate with words. And so what we thought is maybe we should use words and try and make a translation between lat long and words to help them communicate location. And that, in a nutshell, is what we've done. What 3 Words is a universal addressing solution which makes it easy for people to communicate precise location when a street address won't do or when they haven't got a street address. So this translation between lat long and 3 words, how have we done it? Well, the way we've done it is we've made a grid of the world. So we've chopped the world into an imaginary grid, and that's made out of squares which are 3 meters by 3 meters. Now, when you make a grid like this and cover the entire world in this grid, you end up with a ridiculously large number of squares, 57 trillion squares around the world. But we've managed to give each and every one of those squares a unique address using 3 words from the dictionary. So the addresses are all generated by a computer algorithm, and so every single one of those squares everywhere around the world we've allocated a unique address to, which is different from the address given to any other square. How does that look? Well, here's an example. We've zoomed up a bit of London, in fact, here, and this part of central London, the square there has been allocated the 3-word address gazed across like. So once that 3 words has been discovered, I can tell somebody that, I can communicate it to them, and without any further information, using our software, they can find out where is that square precisely in London, and if they were to come to London, they could navigate there without any further information. Why do we use words to encode the lat long? Why not use a code number or alphanumerics or something like that? The reason is quite simple. Words are much easier for human beings to handle than alphanumerics. And the chart we're looking at the moment is a study from the University of Miami, which asked people to remember different codes of different lengths made out of different things. And the researchers discovered that when you have a code made out of 3 words, after 20 minutes, over 90% of people can easily recollect that. But if you have a code made out of 8, 9, 10 digits and alphanumerics, then almost no people can recall that after 20 minutes. So words are much easier to handle for human beings. We like words because they work everywhere. It's easy to write them down. We can write them down on a piece of paper. We can say them over a phone or radio, just like I've said, gazed across like to you today. We can text them in a text message. We can put them into WhatsApp. We can write them on an envelope, and so on and so forth. So words are very easy to handle, and they fit into all the systems that we're using today. How have we allocated the words to addresses and to squares? Well, we've used a certain number of rules to do that. So first of all, we allocate simpler, more common words to squares which are addressing places in towns and cities. So for example, the east coast of the US there in New York, there's a square which is table, chair, lamps. The example there in the middle of the ocean is somewhat more complicated, longer words, curiosity, peach, deconstruct. So simpler words in towns and cities because people are more likely to be talking about squares and want to navigate to squares where people are. Secondly, in the algorithm, we've allocated similar addresses far apart on the globe. So we use singulars and plurals in English. That square table, chair, lamps is in the east coast of the US. There is one called table, chair, lamp singular, and the algorithm has allocated that to a location on the east coast of Australia. So the reason we've done this is it allows us to do error checking and error correction when we are receiving input with 3-word addresses. So in fact, if you download our app, this is enabled in the app today. You'll see on the left on the current slide, the users try to type in poorly shaped cardinal. It's their 3 words. They've made a few spelling mistakes while they're doing that. If they tell the app they're going somewhere nearby, which is typically in the same country, then the app will automatically suggest what it thinks is the most likely square based on how we've allocated the words to the addresses. And in this case, it's correctly come up with poorly shaped cardinal. So what 3 words has got built-in error checking and auto-suggestion. It's also available in multiple languages. So currently we're available in 9 languages. We've got another 3 which are just about to be released. So for every single one of those 57 trillion squares, we have not just one 3-word address in English, but we actually have 9 in the different languages that we support at the moment. The languages are not translations from one to the other. They're processed completely independently. So how are people using what 3 words today? So many different people are using it for many different things across the world today. So for example, a company called Pollinate Energy is using it in India to locate solar power kits that they've distributed amongst informal residences, informal settlements. In Africa, in Tanzania, an NGO called Intercare is using it in order to locate mosquito traps that they've installed in various villages. These mosquito traps need to be checked and they need to be recharged every 6 months, and so they're using it to locate where they've put them to allow them to get back to them and monitor them. It's also being used in the favelas in Brazil, and Rio de Janeiro in particular, to deliver mail. The government has no obligation to address the informal settlements in Brazil, the favelas, and so an enterprising social enterprise called Carteiro Amigo is using what3 words in order to allow people to receive e-commerce mail within the favelas. It's being used by the UN to report disasters. The UN has a data collector app they call UN Assign, which they use internally. They've integrated what3 words into there to allow them to address people as they go out and monitor and collect data for disasters, and also to allow people to communicate those locations and navigate back to them. It's also being used for festivals, runs, chalets, scavenger hunts. So in fact, the large rock festival, the Glastonbury Festival in the UK last summer, this is a festival held in a field in Somerset, or a number of fields, as you can see from the overhead shot there. This was special footage. It was drone footage which was shot for the festival. There's 250,000 people that visit the festival, 46,000 helpers and medical teams and security teams. Those teams were using what3 words to help them locate areas of attention around the site during the Glastonbury Festival this year. Also bars, hotels, restaurants, many places are difficult to find, particularly if you're a British tourist, for example, in Japan, very difficult to navigate around. And so travel companies and tourism companies are using what3 words to help people find their way about in their native language. The British Museum is using it in order to allow people to see easily where finds, artifacts that have been found, were actually found originally by their original discoverers. So over 1 million artifacts and archaeological finds that the British Museum has have been tagged with what3 words addresses on their website. So many different applications where people want to talk about where things are, where they don't have a street address. Asset management, disaster relief we've also mentioned, land administration, humanitarian development projects, census and surveys, and insurance. Insurance companies, quite often when they're doing insurance for developing countries, don't really have a good idea of where the places they're insuring. And even in developed nations, for census information, quite often this is derived from postal information, but there are often residences where the post box is far away from where people live, and so the census people really want to have some way of describing address which is better than a postal address. And in terms of post and parcel, I've already mentioned the delivery in Rio de Janeiro. The label on the right, you can see the 3 words address, Pato Trens Direta, which is in Portuguese. And so this is the 3 words addressing being used for post and parcel applications. So how is what3 words delivered? How do we provide our technology? Well, we have apps in the App Store. So we have both Android apps and iOS apps, which are free to download. If you just search for what3 words in the App Store, you'll be able to find them. We also, in fact, have a mobile website, so if you don't want to download the apps, but you just want to browse on your mobile phone, you can do that. How do you actually discover a 3 words address for your location or a location you're interested in? There's 4 different options. One is, if you're actually at that location, you simply use your smartphone, use the GPS in the smartphone. Working with our app, we will then look at the GPS position and tell you the 3 words based on that. Alternatively, if you want to find a 3 words address of a location and you're not there, you can simply type in whatever address reference you have for that. It could be a postal address, it could be the name of the town. Then you can move the map till the pin is over the location you want to discover the 3 words address for, and simply read it off in our website or in our app. Also, there are batch converters available. Some of you may be familiar with Safe Software and their product FME. That now supports what3 words. So you can do batch conversions if you have large files of lat longs and you'd like to do a mass discovery of 3 word addresses. That's exactly what this slide is showing. The slide on the right is the city of Mwanza in Tanzania, where the 3 words address for every property has been discovered for a property tax application. And of course, you can use ArcGIS tools, and Mikey's going to explain more about how to do that. But as he mentioned, we've developed in partnership with Esri a locator, which is a plugin for ArcGIS, which lets you discover addresses within ArcGIS. So once discovered, how do you find your way to those addresses? Again, you can use our app. You'll see in this little run of screenshots here, I was trying to trying to type in my home, which is actually the 3 words address for that is Cabbage Excellent Shot. I made a few spelling mistakes, but the autocorrect helped me out. And so I was actually offline at the time I did this, so I couldn't show a map, but inside our app it works completely offline. And we have what we call compass mode, where the app will show you the direction and the distance on how to navigate there. But you can also pass that location across to any installed offline navigation systems, and for example, the Scout navigation program for Android allows you to do that. But also one of our partner companies is a company called NavMe, which has got a fantastic sat-nav solution for iOS and Android. They have integrated what 3 words software into their navigation, and so you can see there that you can type directly into NavMe the 3 words address, and it will give you turn-by-turn navigation to the precise location. So we have many different partners who've integrated what 3 words. You can go to our website and have a quick look. If you're interested in integrating it yourself, we have development tools for our online API, or we also have offline SDKs that can be integrated, which work completely offline without any connection to the internet being required. So Mike is going to talk more about our integration with Esri. There's a screenshot of a demo we did actually in Addis Ababa, showing the ArcGIS and what 3 words locator discovering addresses. There is actually a page on our website which goes into detail on how to do that, but hopefully Mikey may say a few words about that as well. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. I think Mikey's now going to, I'm going to hand back to Mikey. I think there'll be time for questions at the end, hopefully. So Mikey, over to you.
Thanks very much, Tim. That was really interesting. God, I remember a couple of months ago coming across what 3 words, and I was just amazed. I thought it was so impressive.
Great.
So, right. Well, I'm going to start off by showing you how to integrate what 3 words with ArcGIS Online. So I'm just going to search for what 3 words. Go to the website. And if you go into the Partners tab and then click into Esri, it'll go into further details about Esri, and you're going to find more. And then that will bring up this page. So it just explains a bit more about it and what it can do. But really, to set it up, you just go into the ArcGIS setup. And there's details there on how to configure it with ArcGIS for desktop and ArcGIS Online. So I'm and ArcGIS for server. I think that's an email link, but yeah, if you wanted an ArcGIS for server, you just have to contact someone. So I'll start off with ArcGIS Online. So if you go down here, I'm going to open up a tab here. So I'm going to go into an organization that I have for myself. Now, the first thing you have to do is actually set up a developer account. So you go into the What 3 Words website, you go into the developer section, set up an account, and then you'll get an API key. Once you have the API key and you decide you want to integrate it with ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS for desktop or ArcGIS for server, you email What 3 Words, and then they will send you back a password. So once you have that password, you can add the locator. So the first thing you have to do is, what I'm going to do is just put it in a folder called What 3 Words. Just so now in this account I don't have anything, but anyway, I'm gonna do that anyway. And then I'm going to add an item from the web. And I'm going to paste in, and there's a link on the What 3 Words website that has the address of the locator. And so then you'll be prompted for your username and your password. So I'm not going to share my username and password. I'm just going to give me a sec. Okay, so I'm not going to share my username and password, so I'm just going to bring it over here and put in my username and password. So the username is the API key, and then you'll be sent the password by email. So once you have them in, if you store your credentials with the service item, so if you store your credentials with the item, just call it what3 words and put in a tag, whatever tags you want, and then add that as an item. That will create an item in ArcGIS Online. So if you want to limit your usage, you might want to put in, say I want to limit it to this organization. So I'm going to just put in just the start of this URL here. So it'll be http://mikey.maps.arcgis.com and https. So I'll just add in the both of them just in case there's issues with that side of things. So once you have that, then you can copy this REST connection. You then go into your organization and you go into your utility services. So go edit settings, utility services, and then you can add in the geocoder. So I'm going to just paste in the what3 words, and I'll call it what3 words, and let's say enter 3 words. And I'll allow them for now. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So then you can go into your map. And you can see, actually sorry, I didn't save it. So I have to go back. I'm always doing that. You have to save your changes in the organization. Okay, so I'll edit settings, utility services, add the geocoder, not 3 words, enter 3 words. Okay, and go down to the bottom and click save, and then you can go into your map. So once you're in here, then you'll see you have a drop down, so you can select either what3 words or the Esri World Geocoder. By default, it selects all, but then you can go in here, and I'm going to just put in a 3-word address: packet.radio.coffee. And there we go, there's that particular 3x3 square. So I think that's quite cool. And that's how it can be integrated with ArcGIS Online. And the other thing you might have to do is actually share the locator. So you'd want to go into My Content, select your locator, and share with everyone or your organization, depending on what you want to do, or what way you want to secure the locator. Okay, so that's all I'm going to go into from a what3 words perspective, but that's how it can be integrated with ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to continue on with some ArcGIS Online tips and tricks. So you'll notice that like every couple of months you just refresh your browser and ArcGIS Online has been updated. This year there's been 4 updates: March, July, September, and November. So the November one was just a week or two ago. And there's loads of new stuff added in, from widgets in Web App Builder to updates in the way you can symbolize and what kind of services supported, and that side of things. So it's really interesting, and you know, I love just coming in the day after an update happens, because I can send any changes that are relevant for customers onto them, and it can solve their problems a lot of the time. So I have 3 links here. One is just the first thing I'm going to do is go through essentially the bookmarks that I use. So I've an ArcGIS Online bookmarks folder, and I'm going to go through them, each of them, and tell you what you can do with them, and what way they can be used. So this is the first URL. It's fairly simple. You can just put in your web map. It opens up the web map viewer. So if I open that, it'll open up this particular web map. Okay, so then I have this one here. This is for opening up a web scene. So if you have a web scene and you open up a web scene with that particular ID, then you can just throw it in there and it'll open up the web scene viewer. Final one is just an item viewer, so you can view any ID from ArcGIS Online. You can just throw it in here, and you can check exactly what it is once you have the permissions to actually view it. So this can be really useful. So if I'm going to go to story map today, I'm going to go to storymaps@esri.com and have a look at the gallery. I'm just going to pick a random story map here. Say this one here. And I know there's going to be a web map behind this, but I don't know how to actually find that web map. How can I discover that web map if I want to use some of the stuff within that? And the answer is you just have to open up the developer tools. So if you go into more tools, developer tools, the ArcGIS Online, okay, so just refresh this. And you can see them now. Usually they show up in the console, but for this particular one, it hasn't. Perhaps they're hosting it themselves. No, it looks like it's in ArcGIS Online. But in any case, you can still get it from here. So if you go into the network tab of the Chrome developer tools and you filter for data, then you'll see I've two requests here. If you look at the headers, you can see the item ID. So there's 2 different ones here. One will be the web map, and one will be the application. If there's multiple web maps in the application, then they'll list in here as you go through the story map. So I'm going to copy that in, and that's what I can use my this particular the item bookmark for. So I'm going to just search for this ID. And once this loads, then okay, so that particular one is actually for the story map itself. But if I get the other one, that's going to be the web map. So if you've ever looked at a story map and wondered what's actually behind it, that's how you can actually find the web map for yourself. And if you want to look for any services that it's using, or how it's symbolized, or how in particular something is set up, that's how you can find it. Another thing I find quite useful, now it's handy for me sometimes, but I think as an administrator of an organization, it can be very useful. So what it allows you to do is actually view the contents of another user within the organization. So once you're an administrator, you can type in this URL, just change the user. So I'm looking at the user Mikey demo at the moment, but I have another user in this organization called mcali8. So I'm going to open that up. And then I can view all the content from that particular account. So it can be useful if you have multiple accounts in an organization, or if you need to check what someone else has been doing, you can do it that way. The next URL then is the search parameters. So I'm just going to close out some of these. And you can use your search, so there's loads of different item fields here that you can use, and in particular, say spatial reference. Let's say I want to search for something just in ITM, so I'm going to go into my organization, and I just want to find some content that's in ITM. So I'm going to put in spatial reference 2157. So 2157 is the code for ITM. So I can do that. I'll search, and nothing has been returned. That's because it's just searching within my organization. So I'm going to uncheck this box, and that will show you everything that's public in ArcGIS Online that uses ITM as its spatial reference. So the same thing can be done with, say, Irish Grid. You can just copy that in, and 29900 is Irish Grid. So there we go. That's all the content in ArcGIS Online that is using Irish Grid as its spatial reference. The next thing is AGO Assistant, which stands for ArcGIS Online Assistant, and it was created by Esri just to help you manage ArcGIS Online.
Sorry, we got the ring.
So I'm going to log in here. I'm logged in with my organization account, my own one. So there's not very much content in here, but it'll just give you a feel for the look of it. So it'll first list the folders that are in your account. So I have this locator in here, and it'll allow you to copy your content. So let's say I want to copy into another account. I can copy a feature service or a web map or an application, and I can copy it into your own account into another folder or something, or you can copy it into another account. So if you have another account within your organization or another organization account, you can copy it using this. You can also view the items JSON, which can be useful sometimes if you need to figure out if there's something wrong with a web map and you want to figure out what's actually in it. You can just look at the JSON, and then it allows you to update the URLs of services in a web map and of registered apps and services. So that's quite a useful resource, and I tend to use that quite a bit. Another application that can be used is AGO Admin Tools Beta. So this is created by someone. I'm not sure actually who created it. Yeah, so P.O. Halloran, he's Esri, Phil Halloran, he's Esri as well. So what you do is you just log in. You log in with your credentials. Now you have to be an administrator to be able to use this. So I'm just going to get my credentials. Okay, so let me just get that. And there we go. Okay, so I'm logged in as Mikey Kelly. And what can you do with this? Well, you can change your URL key. So if you're changing, if you want to change your organization, the URL of your organization, you can do it using this. You can create a custom base map. So this allows you to have a multi-layer base map and create that. So that can be useful as well. And then allows you to update URL paths throughout the organization. So if you're updating a server, this can be quite useful for bulk updating all the services that use the old server. Okay, so just before that, I'm just going to plug in my laptop. I thought I had it plugged in, but obviously not. There we go. Okay. Right, so that's another kind of a nice admin tool that you can use with ArcGIS Online. And then there's the GeoJob admin tools that can be used with ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to approve that. So this is a third-party app that can be there's a free version that you can use. Now I'm not sure why this keeps prompting me. Okay. Just gonna put that in again. Gonna log in with my Esri Ireland account. And so this allows you to copy items, register services. It's very good if you're changing organization. There's lots of organization stuff that you can use to clone your organization. You can add tags to multiple web maps, to groups, and you can invite users to groups. It's just a very nice interface for updating stuff and for bulk adding tags, and for exporting stuff as CSVs. Yeah, but that's a really useful tool. So that can be got through the marketplace. So if you want to search for that, just look for search for GeoJob in the marketplace. So I showed you earlier that you can with one of the admin tools you can view an item's JSON. So you can view it through here, or you can actually just search for the item itself. So this is another bookmark that I have that displays the JSON behind a web map. So it'll show all the organization layers and everything. And if you want to actually be able to read that, you can look for a JSON viewer. So I have there's one I tend to use, this one here, yeah. So that'll show you exactly what's actually in the web map or application or whatever type of JSON you're looking at. So I'll obviously send the link to all these URLs, and you'll be able to once the webinar is over, you'll be able to have a look at them and play around with them and use them if you think they're useful for you. Another thing I've bookmarked is Model ArcGIS Online Organizations, and so this can be quite useful for if you're just getting started with your ArcGIS Online account, for having it has various images. You can customize your item thumbnails, and it's just a nice thing to use. You can download them all from this particular blog, and yeah, I'd recommend if you want to update your ArcGIS Online, you have a look here. Another thing I have bookmarked is Esri content in ArcGIS Online. So you can see here I'm just using the search tag owner Esri, and so you can see everything that's owned by Esri, and so you can see there's quite a bit in there. Okay, so I also have a link here for Esri base maps. So I'm just searching for owner Esri, and then I'm using base maps as the tag, so you can see all the base maps that are owned by Esri. This is kind of a viewer for ArcGIS Online, and it can be quite nice for creating. The thing I use it for is creating tag clouds. So let's say I log in with my user account, and I'm just going to use SiteSense. So you can see all my stuff that I use for that. But then you can open the tag cloud and it'll show you all the tags that I use. Now I obviously haven't used that many in here, but let's say I say in a particular group or search, yeah, this is where I go. So owner, I'll just go and Kelly8, and I'll apply that, and I'll look for a tag cloud. Okay, I'm going to use another account. Not sure why. Okay, so there we go. Creates a nice looking kind of cloud of all your different tags that you use, and the ones that are bigger represent that they've been used more. But that's a really nice kind of interface. You can get CSV if you want just a list of everything in your ArcGIS Online account with particular tags. Allows you to filter through your items and view them in various different ways. So I have a lot of tabs open here. I'm just going to close quite a few of them. So then I have an ArcGIS Online Best Practices page. So this is just for best practices. If you're looking at, having your best possible content available, if you want it to be searchable, you want it to have tags, this just details the various things that can be done to help you achieve that. And there's a very nice tool. If you go onto Living Atlas, let me just get the link here. If you go onto the Living Atlas, you sign in. So I'm going to sign in with my Esri Ireland account. It'll get your items and it'll rank your each item that you have in ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to just use this top one here, and you can see I get 31 out of 100 because I obviously don't have very many tags. 2 tags. I have no credits, and I'm not displaying a summary description. So if you have public content that you want people to be able to find, and you want it to be if you wanted to follow best practices, this can be quite a useful tool to use. Finally, my last bookmark is for, this is probably my most recent bookmark, but it's for the Story Maps Developer Corner. So there's some really useful tips in there for letting you customize your story maps and adding in buttons and adding in audio. Yeah, I'd recommend you have a look there if you want to look at kind of develop a little bit of develop. If you want to put a bit of development into your story maps, these don't require full-on development, but they're just kind of add-ins. You can edit your HTML within your story map. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my content, and I'm going to open a map. And I have a couple of things that I want to use in here. So I'm going to just open my content first. So So I'll close the rest of these and I'll go to my content. And I know there's a couple of things in here that I want to use, so I'm going to want this particular feature there. So I'm going to favorite this, so it's easier for me to find. I use this quite a bit just to be able to, if I'm putting in multiple layers in my web map, it can be easier to favorite them first, and then I can go in here, search for layers, and search for my favorites, and then it's an easy way of just adding in your feature service or whatever you're looking for. Then something that is relatively recent is the living atlas layers, and there's quite a bit of content in here, but you can look at all the different base maps, historical maps, demographics, any kind of thing that you're looking for. You can search within here, and it will show the area within the map content for a start, and then if you want to see everything, you can untick the within map area box. Another thing I use quite a bit is so I'm going to copy this. This is a feature service, and I just want to use the schema behind this feature service. So something I use quite a bit is go into my content and create a feature layer from URL. So that will use the feature service and base the feature service that you create on that. I've got a few tests. Okay, so test 1 and 2 are gone. So that will create a hosted feature layer, and it will have the schema that's behind the other feature service that was used. So you can see all the layers here that have been essentially replicated. Another thing that I do is I'm going to go to the Esri Ireland website. What I do is I host images in ArcGIS Online. So I'm going to save this image to the desktop, and I'm going to add it in here, my content. So if you're using an image within one of your applications, if you have a logo or something, you can use this to host it. So you can add an item from your computer, select the image, and I'll say Esri logo. So once that's added, then once it's finished loading, there'll be a link. Okay, so I'm just going to refresh that. Just have a look for. Okay, so that's the URL that I need. Usually this shows up. I don't know why it's not showing up now. But what I'm going to do is just share this publicly so I can access it. Oh, there it is now. It's just after loading. So that's the image URL that you need to use. And so you can see the logo there. Then that's stored within ArcGIS Online, which is stored in Amazon. So Amazon is actually where it's stored behind the scenes. You can see the link here. It's an AGO item. It's in the S3 storage of Amazon. A new feature then that has been recently added is the ability to limit credits. So you can see here we have available credits that are within the organization. And now everyone has, we have 3,675 credits. Everyone is just set, we haven't actually set it up really. But if you go into your organization, into credits, you can manage your budget within here. So you can search for a group, or you can select everyone. You can add everyone from the organization. I'm just going to add in my user, search for that. And you can set the allocation for the credits that that particular user can use. If there's no allocated limit, they can use all the credits within the organization. Okay, so I'm going to create a map now. I'm going to go to GeoHive and just get some data that I want to use. I'm going to go to population and economy, and I'm going to go to education. So I'm going to get the primary schools in Ireland, and I'm going to copy the URL for that, add it into the map. I'm also going to add in the counties in Ireland. So I'll copy that URL and add it in here. So this just shows the boundaries for the counties within this web map. So I'm going to turn them off and I'm going to do some analysis. I'm going to rename this to counties in Ireland. And I'm going to do some analysis. So you might have noticed that you can use Esri have hosted some hexagons that cover the world and that you can use to aggregate points. So to do that, you go into your summarized data, aggregate your points. Now I'm going to aggregate the primary schools within each county, and I'm going to do it for all the points. And I'm going to add some statistics then as well. So say the min, the max, and the average for total enrolled. I'm not going to group by anything, and I'm just going to say primary schools in Ireland. So this will show the number of primary schools in Ireland, the number of primary schools per county in Ireland. I'll run that, and that will take a while to run. So we'll leave that running in the background. In the meantime, I'm going to show you a story map that Esri have created recently. And it's a story map of smart mapping and what's new with the most recent update of ArcGIS Online. I'll send on a link to this. It's well worth looking at though, and you can use my trick that I showed you earlier of how to get the web map. But there's lots of new smart mapping that you can use in ArcGIS Online now, that can be really useful. To demonstrate that, I'm going to just show you. I have some sales territory points. So these points show you where sales have been made by a now they're mock-up sales. But here's my sales territories and here's my mock sales territories. So I'm going to add that to a new map. And you will see that there's just loads of points around Ireland. But I want to display them in a different kind of way. So I'm going to change the style. And I'm going to choose some attributes to compare. So I'm going to compare my 2014 sales to my 2015 sales. This will compare A to B, and there's your ratio of how your sales compare for each of the points. You can also do it have a sales rep column in this. So I'm going to base it on the sales rep and the October 15. So the colors represent the sales rep, and the size of the point represents the sales that have been made by that particular rep. So I'm going to just leave that as default. I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to just open up in Web App Builder. So I'm going to create a new app with Web App Builder. And there's a new widget called the Batch Attribute Editor. So I'm going to add that in here. And I'm going to just configure it so you can select an area and change attributes for a particular layer. So I'm going to select the sales territories layer. And I want to allow people to change the sales territory, the sales rep. Okay, so I'm going to open up the rep just to open up the widget to test it. And I'm going to just change all these so they use rep, say rep C. So I'm after selecting 202 points, and this is going to change the sales rep within for each of those points. So we'll just give it a sec to complete and refresh. Okay, so I obviously haven't symbolized rep C, so I'll just go to rep A. And there we go. So they've all changed. Each of those points within the polygon that I put in, they've all been changed to rep A. Now just finally, I had a little bit more planned. I'm after running out of time a little bit. I was going to show how I created a scene, but it looks like I'm not going to get a chance to show that. What I will do though is show you the elevation app that has been added into ArcGIS Online. So this is an updated elevation app that's been developed over the past while. So for any of you who live close to Westport, and I have just line features here for Sea to Summit, which is a kind of run. It's a cycle run that happens in Westport every year, and I'm going to create an elevation app for that. So this is Sea to Summit. So I've already digitized the lines for Sea to Summit. So I have that saved. I'm going to share it and create a web app, and I'm going to base it on the elevation app. So as you can see, the old one is still there, but this is a brand new one. So if you have an elevation app already, it's not automatically updated like with other stuff, and this is a brand new template. And it's just a nicer kind of interface to it, and it's well worth changing over if you have. So you can open up your chart and select a particular route, and then you can see the route, the elevation of that particular route. Now I had planned to show some stuff with ArcGIS Pro around Sea to Summit as well, but I don't have time at the moment, so I'm going to finish up a little bit early. But I will show you what the end result was. So I need to log in with my other account. I plan to show you how to do this. So I have a Sea to Summit in 3D. So it's a web scene using ArcGIS Pro. And it's a web scene of Sea to Summit, and it's the Sea to Summit route, but then it shows the elevation as well, so you can see the route. There's various stages. That's what the colours represent. But then it'll show you the elevation as well. So you can see the red is up on top of Croagh Patrick, and there's a nice wee hill here. It doesn't compare to Croagh Patrick, but it's pretty tough when you're cycling. And you can see I have it on top of the ground. You can set various different views and turn on and off layers as you please. You can also change the lighting. So depending on what time of day it is, you can change the lighting. In any case, I will try to document that in a further email following this webinar, just to show you how you can do that. But for now, I think we'll leave it at that. Just to finish up, I'll just show you where to get this, where you can see what's new in ArcGIS Online. So if you go to ArcGIS Online, if you Google what ArcGIS Online updates, it'll show you all the new updates that have happened over the past couple of months, and they're all listed here. You know, everything that changes in ArcGIS Online is listed here. So you can keep an eye on that for further updates. So thanks to everyone for joining today, and a special thanks to Tim for helping us out. I'm going to just turn off my screen here. So yeah, I mean, hopefully you'll see some stuff there that you can use over the next while, and it will help you in your use of ArcGIS Online. And of course, Watch Words, I'd recommend you to go and try it out and see what you think of it. It's well worth a look. So thanks to everyone for joining us, and thanks to Tim especially. Speak to you all soon.